Hey, people. I'm fixing to prove to you that Moses did not divide the Red Sea. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm fixing to prove to you that these scientists can't even define scientists. And I'm going to prove to you that it was actually talking about Moses in an opium den. This common practice for businessmen and military men went in China to stop by the opium den, where they mix up a batch of shit that make you think you see the ocean divide. And you say, how can I prove all that? And I'm going to read it right out of here, this song of Moses. Moses' song of deliverance. You know, these songs, you go around the world and you ask people around the world, how'd you learn English? They learn it from American music, American TV. And so these old songs, the language held better than a lot of the Bible. And you can see it in this word here, of her what you picking her. Of her what, just the WCHA, what you. Of her what you picking, the PIKNOR, of picking her. What you picking her. And it's ancient stereotype, that Jews had a big nose, was picking their big nose, and with a blast of your nostrils were gathered together. Of her what you picking her. And mom, M-U-M, to mom. And this actually go over here with this immense view. And so, the MU is three waters stacked up in the Egyptian. The mu is the three waters. And so that's where they're getting that, the mu, the high mem, the high waters. But what it means is, of her which you picking her mum, mums. Of her which you picking her mums, picking the mums. And so mums is where your word chrysanthemums comes from. And it can be called mums or can be called the chrysants. And it means christen the mum. And so christen means, to anoint with oil, to christen. And the mum means what we don't talk about. And we see that down here. In the christen the mum, the chrysanthemum gate. The christen the mum is the taboo slang meaning anus with sexual connotations. We're going to christen the what we don't talk about. The mum, the bum. Of her which you picking her mum. Immense. IMNX. Immense view. Stood upright. And stood upright, and you had an immense view. You could see the whole field. And come wind. And come a wind in Zillam. Come wind in Zillam. In Zillam, like Godzilla. A great amount. And the come wind in Zillam, and come a great wind. And puff of. This is QP or QFAF. And so they'll give the Q the K all the time, but you give it a P here, a PF, a puff of. And come wind in Zillam, puff of. Tempt in love 'em. The tempt in love 'em. In the heart, in the depths, in the heart of the sea. The tempt in love 'em. And so he's talking about, he's over at the opium house in a more of a barred passage. A more of a barred passage. And barred, that's protective armor that you put on your horse. The armor that your horse is wearing, it makes him wider, and a more of a barred the passage. A half I will divide, a half to sell what shall be satisfied on them my desire, and a half to sell time, TM, the time, the mark from, the time, and lamb, and LAMUN, lamb, and that's like a slamming without an S, as in not quite as hard, and lamb and pussy, and so over there in the passageways, and the more, and that's the word for love all around the med, And even in the Egyptian, they'll spell love with a single letter they call amor. But, more means high, more of. And amor of the AVI, of the barred, the passage. People standing all out in the hallway, junkies in the hallway, a half cell time, lambing pussy. A riff hereby. A riff, and I would draw my sword, is a riff. He was going to write a poem about it and write this song, a riff hereby. Tourism, Tourism, shall destroy them. The tourism vidi, VIDI, is where your word video comes from. Vini, vidi, vici. I came, I vidi, I saw, and I conquered. I vidi, I saw. Tourism, vidi, to see. So we can see that tourism means to seize, dispose, take possession of. And so, that's what Egypt was. It was a big tourism spot. They had all the wonders of the world to come see. So word is, in past times, not like it's going on today, these big-nosed guys, they move in and make a deal with your government and promise them all kind of tourism and riches from tourism. And then they would get all your people addicted to drugs and suck all the wealth back out of the country. And so when you blew with your wind and covered them, that's in spit broke. In spit broke chasm. That's where a chasm is, a big deep crevice. That's probably where they're getting that split the Red Sea from. Because the red's coming from right here. The matter, MADIR. I am Madaram, the red. But in spit broke chasm, and the WYM, the chasm home, the chasm YM, the chasm home, excel goes in front low. They sank, excel low. And they're getting this lead from two different places. One of them is like lead, is copper. It's like lead, it's real heavy, and it doesn't corrode easy. But the other is like lead, like a leader, and that's coming from this cooperate, a cooperate. In spit broke chasm, whom excel low, in cooperate. And so the ones that are going broke, they will cooperate. In my Madaram, in my red soup. And I say soup because I think that's one of the words they give red. But this means many things. And if you read this as a S, it looks more like a S. It's in my sadries. The lies in my diary. The sad entries. But it's talking about, mighty. And I'm sure this is an old word for a writing of the times in the Madram. Because when it was talking about I would draw my sword, it's a riff hereby. I would draw my sword mightily. A riff hereby, Madram. And my cabal. This gives us a better idea of what cabal really means. Who is like you among the gods? My cabal. And I believe that's pronounced me, M-I as in M-E, me. And me cabal, me have. And me canard or fetish and wear. Tell it who's fell. And tell it who's fell. Me cabal, me have. Me canarder. Canarder, you only hear that from old ladies with your canarding around. It's where the word Canada comes from, meaning a settlement. And so a canarder is a settler. And so me canarder in fetishin where tell it who's fell. And so a tellet is a mound in in the desert, a tellet, something that has a tail at the poker table, is scratching his lip. It's a little mound where there just shouldn't be, and it's a tell that there's something there, there's a water supply in the tellet in the desert. And me come canotter to settler in fetishin where the tellet whose fell. And in this next line, gonna give us a good idea about this right hand, oh Jimmy Nick. And this is coming from Amen, I-M-I-N. You know, you stretched out your right hand. You know, that's Amen. And he's got one hand out behind him, and he stands on a mar. He's raised, and he might be called Menamun. And he surely was a pimp. You know, he always stood on his mar, vegetarian, trying to tell you what give you a good hard on. And he was pimping, you know, he got his hand, pimp hand, raised. But it's plainly spelled up here, you know, the A-M-N, Amen. And so this means a couple things. You know, it means I am, I'm in. I'm in. Hey, let's have a crawfish boil, you know, and you throw your right hand in. I'm in. But when you see it here, he's done drawed his hand back. And that's where they're getting this you stretched out from. Because this is a not it. Not it. And not it is when you're sitting around with five of your buddies watching a football game, and somebody throws a sack of weed and papers on the table and hollers not it. It means the last one to catch on has got to roll the joint, you know. And so you stretched out your hand, you throwed your weed down there and raised your hand up and said, not it. Everybody got to raise their hand and say, not it. The last one is caught. Jimmy Nick, you know, and not it, I'm in. I'm not in. You didn't stretch out your right hand, you drew it back. Not it, I'm in. I'm a nodder. And this word here, this is the ka-tabo. I think there's only one other place to find this word in the Bible. And it's here on the front, you know, the Tor incuttable. And usually they say the table is the world. But where it's used here, this is in cut in, you know, and it means written in cut in. And so not it, I'm in, you know, is not a time in, you know, not a time in. It's not going to happen. My hands draw it back. And not a time in cut bloom, B-L-O-M, in cut bloom works. And that's what they do, you know. They go out there in the matter, in the red field, and they cut these blooms and milk them. And so men represents the pimp hand, you know, coming down, and not a time in cut bloom work. Don't have time for that. You know, not a time in cut bloom works. You know, of her which a picking her picking the mums, and we're gathered together the waters, and picking her mum, immense view in the huge field. Come wind in zillum, puff of tempt in lovem, a more of a barred passage, a half cell time, lammerin pussy, a riff hereby, tourism, vidi, in spit broke, cosm whom, excel low, cooperate in my matterum, in my red matterum. Me come cabal me have, me come canotter in fetishin where, tell it who's fell. Not a time in cut bloom works. So I'm gonna cut this off here. I was just looking at words with this ZL in them, and there's just a few in the Torah in the first 5 books. This combination doesn't come up often, and I found a lot of cool things while I was searching for the 15 times it comes up. So I'm gonna cut this off here. Good day.